and welcome to this week's edition of Shaynel's 3 Cents, where I'm your host, Shaynel Caldwell, the founder and executive director of Our Blended Families. And again, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. I've completely missed all of you guys, even those of you in Facebook land. I've been out for a couple weeks trying to get some training done, trying to get some work done, and I appreciate the people that have been here in my absence, specifically my sister, my producer, Shar Robinson, and also our DJ, our digital folks, our interns, everyone here at Voxwave Studios that has been really supportive in my absence to make sure that the show continued to go on YouTube, and for those that caught reruns on Facebook.com. So again, I want to say thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to have an awesome show for you today. I have my good friend and colleague, Mr. Oliver Roy, is going to be joining us shortly. But before we bring him on, of course, we're going to give you my 3-cent rant for the day. It's kind of like I don't know where to begin because, of course, it's been a couple of weeks. But in the past couple of weeks, we'll start back a little piecemeal. Right now, we know that our folks down in southern Florida are dealing with the repercussions from Hurricane Michael, and we know that it touched a little bit in Atlanta and up the eastern coast. So we want to say thank you to everyone that's out there, all the survivors, all the supporters, all the first responders. Please make sure you're safe. Please make sure you access the resources on health.org. Make sure you check into the resources that are available not only in your community, but also your state, local, and federal government to make sure that you have access to those services and those relief efforts. So aside from Hurricane Michael, we've also had the news, everything with Bill Cosby and our brand new additional sexual assault case that came down the wire from our awesome new Supreme Court Justice, Associate Justice, Mr. Brett Kavanaugh. I say that with a nice breath because, again, it's such an important topic. While we understand that the allegations against Mr. Kavanaugh kind of wreaked havoc on his nomination, and it actually sparked a nationwide effort for us to start examining ourselves, the things that we do as a country, the things that we do individually as a man and a woman. For those of you that have been hiding under a rock or like an ostrich, have had your head in the sand, the primary issue was this gentleman that was nominated to sit as a justice by our illustrious president, Mr. Trump. The nomination for Mr. Kavanaugh had a bit of controversy because there were some women who had alleged that he had not behaved himself in a characteristic that would, I guess, embody that of a Supreme Court justice, to put it lightly. Essentially, while we know that he may have had the skills and the qualifications, and we only know that because they still didn't release about 10,000 documents, but notwithstanding, we always want to look at someone's character in any position that you hold, because not only is your character the embodiment of who you are, but it's essentially your brand, everything that you stand for, everything that you've built your reputation on. And so the allegations stated that simply he was not worthy to be a Supreme Court justice because of past behavior and some not so recent behavior. I wouldn't have had a problem with the accusations. Dr. Christine Blasey Ford stated to the public on national TV, she sat before the U.S. Senate and stated that when she was a teenager, she had a run-in with Kavanaugh, one of his colleagues, and they sexually assaulted her. There's still a myriad of controversy surrounding people that believe her, people that question, including Senator Collins. Well, we think that it happened to her, but she probably doesn't remember who it was, which certainly wasn't Brett. So aside from all of those, the name blaming and the finger pointing, I would not have had a problem because I am a mother. I'm a mother to a son. I'm an aunt to some awesome nephews. I would not have had a problem had Justice Kavanaugh stated, you know, maybe I don't remember those things that happened, but if they did happen, I want to offer my apologies. And or I do remember that. I was young. I was 17. I was dumb. I'm no longer like that. That's no longer part of my characteristics. And the behavior that I exhibited at the time was essentially reprehensible. And I'm sorry. Now, had he done those things, I think we probably would have just given him the nod, even though we weren't happy that we were getting someone on this side of the fence. But because he didn't do any of that, because he proceeded to trash her name, because he then proceeded, as he sat on the Senate floor, to say that this is crazy, I don't know why I'm here, don't you be asking me no questions, don't you be asking me no questions, I don't remember nothing, and literally just showed his ass, it did not turn out well. Mind you, he is sitting now as a justice, but we have recently discovered in the last 2 days, we have a sitting justice and also a retired justice that has essentially said that his statements, his behavior sitting before the Senate, while he's still a D.C. Circuit judge, was not becoming of the characteristics of a justice. So now there is an investigation by the Ethics Committee, and I believe they transferred it to a different circuit. I believe it's the 10th Circuit of Appeals that's out in Colorado. So please pay attention and stay tuned. It's not so much how you start, it's always how you finish. And I believe that he behaved himself in a manner that was unbecoming of a justice, a manner that was unbecoming of a man that was looking for a job, because yes, it was a job interview, but ultimately it was unbecoming of someone who will be making decisions for women and decisions about women, women's rights, women's health care. And so those are things that we want to be mindful of. And we want to take action. We want to take notice. Mind you, there's still a couple states that still are, where people are still eligible to register to vote. We know the vote is coming up on November 6th. So again, as I always say, please pay attention. Please let your friends and families know that we need to get out and vote. We need to make sure we know what's going on in our county races. We need to know what's going on in our state races. And ultimately, we need to know what's going on in our federal government, because it will impact our families. So I'm going to sit down on that rant. It won't be the first time that we're going to talk about this, because we're going to circle back to Mr. Kavanaugh in our discussions in our upcoming weeks, because, again, it's important to me as a woman. It's important to me as a mother. And hopefully it's important to you as viewership, because, again, we have to live in this community. We have to live in our states, and we have to live together as United States citizens. So, again, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to put on my happy face and not have all my anger and my foul-mouthed words about this topic. And we'll be right back with, again, Mr. Oliver Roy from the Lanier Foundation, and have him join us to tell us some of the awesome things that his organization is doing and some of the wonderful interactions that he's having with local and county government on his behalf. So thank you so much, and we'll see you back after this short break. And we are back. Again, thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of Shaynel's 3 Cents. We're here with my awesome and handsome and not fat guest, Mr. Roy. I'm sorry, I was overwhelmed by my joke. Oliver Roy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a blessing to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we get started, can you tell our folks a little bit about who you are?
Who I am? Well, I'm a dad. I am a advocate. I don't know. I'm not good at talking about me, but I do what I can to help and support where I can.
Okay, and where's your organization based out of?
It's based out of 1629 K Street, Northwest Washington, D.C., but it also works out of several libraries for the workshops and trainings.
Awesome, awesome. So even though your offices are located in Washington, D.C., does your organization provide services throughout the DMV?
Well, no, but I've been getting a lot of requests from Prince George's County and Montgomery County. And I'm currently trying to work out a agreement where we can have a location in Montgomery County, Silver Spring area.
Okay, so right now your efforts are focused in D.C. Okay, awesome, awesome. Certainly needed. So tell us a little bit about your background. I know I shared a bit with our folks online, but if you wouldn't mind, again, talking a little bit more about yourself.
I'm a mental health advocate. I'm a father of an adult with special needs. He was a kid with special needs. I was a single dad with children. I got most of my training from health services with children with special needs to be an advocate and to support parents with children with disabilities and special needs. It's been about 20, 25 years.
Awesome.
But this is my third year doing it on my own.
Okay, awesome, awesome. I certainly remember what the day that we met. I was very impressed with you and your colleague with regard to some of the work that you're doing, and not only the efforts that you made in the area, but your passion about doing the work, because it not only encompasses things that help children, but it also encompasses things that we can do for our parents, because we know as a parent, you need to be stable, you need to be solid before you can help your child. So I was very, very impressed with that.
Well, I was one of those parents. And what was the biggest difficult challenge for that is I was a dad. And there's a lack of services for fathers, whether you have a child with special needs or whether you just a single dad. There's a problem with providing support for dads. There are actually some people don't believe some dads need support, professionally and government-wise. You know, they want you to work it out.
Okay, let me interject really quickly. When we say some people don't believe that dads need support, do you believe, as I believe, that oftentimes it's the men themselves that don't believe they need support?
There are some of them that are in denial. That's what I call it. You self-hypnotize yourself that you don't need help and support when you actually need help. I know that because I was one. 2001, when I got my son from Child and Family, I knew nothing about mental health. I knew nothing about ADHD. I knew nothing about suicidal thoughts, never dealt with that stuff. So I had to learn, but no one really was teaching it for dads. But it was a wraparound services for moms.
Absolutely.
So that speaks for itself.
Yeah, because of the work that I do, working with fathers and some of the other great organizations such as yours, while we're trying to let the government know, let the community know that dads need more services, it's also a challenge letting the fathers know that, hey, you need help and it's okay to ask for
I think
help.
one of the problems is the stereotype that's been placed on men that they're the provider, the head, and when you're the provider and the head, you don't want to ask for help. You just want to get it done, or you want to find other ways. But there just got to be another way to get them to ask for help.
Okay.
I refused to, because I felt that they was going to look down on me. I felt that when I went to register my kids in the school after my divorce, they stuck their nose up at me and they was like, well, hey, where's the mother? Well, I'm not here about the mother. I'm here to register my kids in school. My son has a special need and he has his IEP document. What are you going to do to get him registered?
Right.
Oh, well, we have to talk to the mother. No, you don't. Here's my documentation. Here's the
This is
social
my
security
child.
card, and this is my child. Oh, and by the way, here's a letter from the judge. Then they enroll my kids into school. So it's been a challenge back then to do it. So now I know with those dads that are in shelters, those dads that are coming out of incarceration, I know some of the challenges they're facing with getting help and support, especially if they have a child that they're trying to see the kid.
Right, right. Yeah, it's truly something that's going to be an ongoing fight to make sure that not only the services are available, but to publicize and make sure people are aware of that.
Well, we're in a mental health crisis. If you don't believe me, turn your news on. It's not just dads, but you also have to look at those kids that are in foster care. That's a mental health crisis. The parents don't really have, in my experience, proper mental health training. These kids have mental health challenges coming into another home.
Right.
These kids have challenges in adapting. They want to either find a parent or be with their real parent. They need mental health counseling. They may get some, but the parent that's taking on the children needs to have that as well. So I'm advocating not just last year and this year, but I'm advocating for the long term for extensive mental health training for parents that want to be foster parents.
Right. Now, are there currently training guidelines? And it sounds like you're saying that the ones that are, they're not truly sufficient to address the issue.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I know because I've been through it. I was a foster parent and I was a foster kid. So it speaks for itself.
Okay. Now, as a parent advocate, are you advocating on behalf, and let me know if sometimes you play a dual role in this, are you advocating on behalf of the parents, or are you advocating on behalf of the services to let parents know that these things are available?
I would rather say the services. I don't want to say that I'm advocating just for the kid or advocating just for the parent, because they both work with each other. I mean, the parent has to be able to support and aid the kid. You know, when I first got my son from Child and Family, I didn't know anything about mental health. So I knew about mental health prior to getting the foster kids. But there's a lot of parents I run into that has no idea that these kids come with mental health challenges.
Right.
And it's a lot of challenges, especially if you're bringing a child into a home that already have kids. So it just gets frustrating. Really
I understand
does.
that. I understand that. I spent some time in the foster care system as a youth myself. And I also have a cousin who just started an organization for foster children, Miss Mary Boulware. Hey, Miss Mary.
Hi, Miss Mary.
But again, it is really important, because when we look at the way the society has set up the foster care system, and it's been there for decades, and oftentimes we don't realize that we do foster care all the time, particularly in ethnic communities, because that's your cousin, that's your auntie, you know, and so we are all supporting one another in the absence of their actual parent. But in our typical foster care system, parents take in children, but they really don't understand, as you mentioned, that these kids have baggage. And it's not just they're mad because they're in my house.
No.
They're mad because their mom has some issues, or they're mad because their dad isn't
It's
there.
a complete circle of issues and challenges. You know, when I first got the 2 foster kids that I had, there was a lot of information that I should have known bringing them into the household with other children that I wasn't allowed to know because of the confidentiality with the district government, or they just felt they didn't need to tell me. But I thought it was prudent that parents need to know as much information about the kid they're bringing into a household as possible, especially if you're bringing into a household with additional children. Behavior sometimes mimics itself.
Absolutely.
But we're not taught that. Nor in my training was I taught that.
I think that actually kind of bears repeating, because sometimes we think that, oh, the kids are all just going to get along. You know, kids know how to play. They'll be fine. But many times, and I actually read a couple articles about this, they've had instances of foster parents who had children that also had IEPs that were not properly acclimated to how their child's IEP or their behavior problems would interfere in or work well with the foster children that they're also bringing in.
All the parents didn't understand it and still signed off on the IEP. You cannot do that. They have to understand the IEP. They have to know what they're getting their children into, or what the support they're providing or going to have provided for their kid.
Okay. So how do we get around that? How do we get around it? If I'm deciding that I want to be a foster parent, I have decided I want to do this because I have love in my heart, I have room in my house, you know, my kids may be gone, or I may still have one child.
Here's what I would like to see happen, and I don't know if I'm just dreaming in that, but I think that there need to be extensive training. When I say extensive training, at least I would say 90 days training on strict mental health and behavior for the parent that is going to care for the foster. I don't really like saying foster, but special need child, because that's pretty much, those are special children, you know, who don't want a home. So that's my main thing right there.
Okay. And I like that you said that the kids don't want a home, because we know that most foster kids, and I think the stats said about 90% of the children that are typically placed, and this was from 2015, don't want to go to the foster home.
Oh no!
Again, because they
ran
still
away
want to
from
go
one
back.
of mine.
Yes.
When I saw that room that she had for me, I thought it was a sale. I had to go. Yes, indeed. I ain't gonna never forget that one. But one of the things I try to do for the kids that I do provide support for is like hygiene items like deodorant, soap, the feminine hygiene items that they need, smart trip so that they can get around. It's very minimal, but it's a lot to them because they don't have it. Because, once you're out of the system,
yeah, aging out.
Bye. And it shouldn't be like that. They need support as well. So I tried to do that, and I didn't do it just because I thought it was a good cause. I did it because I was one of those kids.
Right. What other support systems, if you don't mind sharing us, were you able to latch onto as you were aging out of the system? And I know it's been a while.
I think it's been a long time, but it was counseling, because I wanted to know where my mother was. I wanted to find out why I wasn't good enough to be with my mother, when none of that stuff was the case when I was taken from her. But I was led to believe that, I wasn't wanted, or she had these other issues and challenges. She couldn't care for me, and that just wasn't the case. So when I feel that they're in the system, I think that they need to have a clarity or understanding why they're with the foster parent. Now, some children may be too young to understand or know. I get that. But once you start getting to those ages where you want to hang out and you want to have fun, you want to know where you want to know where dad, you want to know why they're not, you want to know who's these people that's caring for you, why they're doing it, or what are they getting out of it.
Okay. I do also recall from my time as a foster youth and getting to know other folks, because for me, this happened in the state of California. So, of course, we have different laws.
Different zones, too.
Different laws within the states.
God.
But for me, it was a matter of not only the question of why are you doing this, but also the appreciation behind it, because I ended up, as well as my sister.
See that.
We ended up in foster care homes for people that we knew and loved, friends of our families that did that. And so while we recognize, okay, they are our friends, they are our family, they're going to care for us, they're also going to be financially compensated for that. And so I think a lot of times people make the mistake of going into being foster parents because, I can get paid for it.
Well, let me explain the financial part. It's not what you think it is, folks. You really have to have your own income. You can't depend on that income that's coming from the state. You have to have your own income. You have to have some kind of financial plan moving forward. But you also need to know what the plan is going to be with the state and the foster kid that you have moving forward as well. Some cases, that's not really fully mapped out. They pretty much say, well, hey, you have the kid in your care. It's your responsibility to make sure that you provide those services.
Right.
But when you are the actual child or kid or teenager that's in the system, you're not hearing that. You want to go. You want answers. You want to know what's going on. But they're not really told.
Okay, now let's flip up a little bit back onto the foster parent side.
Okay.
What about the application process to be a parent? As I mentioned, I understood the motivations behind my foster parent jumping in to provide a handout.
I thought I was buying my first house. That paperwork, it was.
So it was
worth it. It was intensive. It was very thorough. I did like how they did the background. I like how they did the initial paperwork. What I didn't like was the training. I didn't think that the training that I received to care for the children that I had in my care, I didn't feel that I needed more training. But that was me, and I already had mental health training. So imagine if I'm just a mom or dad adopting a child out of the system, I don't have no mental health training, so how am I going to deal with this child?
Okay.
But you don't really hear this. It's almost like a silence when it comes to mental health. So being a mental health advocate, I just want to get it out there, get as many people to support mental health, get as many people to get trained in mental health that's going to care for children, and move from there.
Okay. So when you're, what I believe I hear you saying is the application process is actually...
It's pretty good.
It's actually pretty good. So they consider your motivations, consider your background, your family and associates and things of that nature. But it's the after effect that now that you have been approved, people are not being properly equipped as parents.
And that is, again, in my opinion, my humbleness, that's my opinion, and I don't think it is.
Okay.
And it needs to change. And the parent training needs to be a little bit more, I don't want to say thorough, but it needs to be more intensive, a little bit more hands-on. The behavior assessment, behavior modification, understanding behavior, learning how to, don't get me for this, and negotiate, because you have to negotiate with that behavior in your household. You can't just, well, I'm the parent, this is what you do. Well, you're not my mother, you're not my father. I ain't got to do nothing. I know that too, because I was one of them.
I like the way that you said that, because it's true. We do have to oftentimes negotiate things. And it's not a matter, particularly if you grew up in a black household, you go do this because I said so.
Don't matter.
But how do we make sure that you're getting everything that you need? And I'm also making sure that I'm providing you with the things that you need. And how can we come to that agreement versus it's time for dinner, it's 6 o'clock, well, I ain't ready to eat.
Oh, wait until you give them something they don't want to eat. Oh my God. You have to negotiate dinner or order in.
Okay. So in doing some of the advocacy for that, what are some of the venues, or who do you connect with? Now, I assume that you're still in D.C. doing so. So are there, who are the connections and the people that you can connect with for other foster parents?
I have a strong connection with the Murray Center and Hillcrest Children's Center.
Okay, the Murray
Child
Center
and Family.
Hillcrest.
Yeah. Those are pretty much the main ones.
Okay.
Everybody else talk. They say, well, we're interested, but then you don't see it. Okay. So. Yeah.
I would dare to believe that if you want to have, and I use this term lightly, a successful placement for your foster care, because some children are there for a couple of weeks, other children are there for a couple months, some are a little bit longer in duration. But to make it successful, how do you gauge the successfulness? Look, and I want to get your opinion before I start spouting off on my 3 cents on how you gauge a successful placement.
It's really going to come down to the level of understanding that the parent has with mental health, because you're taking on a mental health challenge with the children. How do you deal with that? That's the key. How long the children will be able to stay in your care will be the key for their mental health stability. If they're on meds, if they're not on meds, if they go into therapy, if they have counseling. And I went through all that with the kids I had too. So it's a challenge. So it's very important that these parents, they get these children, get extensive mental health training. And that will help the expected outcome of a successful placement.
Okay. And I think it also bears noting that when we talk about successful placements, it's not just for the child, but it's also for the parent. Because if you have a successful child, a successful placement, one, you want that child to be emotionally healthy. So we're addressing that. And when your child is in an emotionally healthy state, you are able to, one, relax in your house. You are able to go about your day-to-day, whether or not you're going to work, whether or not you're a stay-at-home parent. But it actually makes better mitigating factors for you as a parent to make it a much smoother transition.
And that makes sense in the real world.
I mean, even as a parent, a regular parent, we have issues. You're going to have issues because it's life. You're going up and down the roller coaster of life. But for someone else's child that you volunteered to take on, you at least want to have something that's pretty stable around those same tracks. We had the up and down, you came home late for school. We had the up and down, you didn't wash dishes. We had the up and down, you refusing to eat vegetables. But you still have an emotionally healthy household where everyone is able to go to bed, rest peacefully, and know that we're going to start fresh tomorrow and be excited about it.
I don't know that now with my 13-year-old. I swear to goodness, she comes in when she want to come in. So I have to negotiate, and I have to be a team player. I have to be a dad. I ain't being no friend. I'm not going to be a friend of the child.
How old is she?
She's 13.
I'll take my belt off.
Well, no, I'm sorry. She's 14. See, I'm messing up the
that's
day.
still belt.
Yeah, she's 14. She's at Eastern, and she have really made. She's been with me now about a year, and she's made significant progress from the challenges that she was having. But although she's not a foster kid, I sometimes wonder. I said, what is wrong with you? Do you want to go in care or something? She said, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? She who wakes up mad in the morning? She wakes up.
Teenagers.
I said, who wakes up mad in the morning? What is wrong with you? She goes, I don't know. But it's a blessing.
But again, like you said, it is the blessing, and it's the knowledge and knowing that, we are continuing to move forward where, there's still love and there's care in that home.
You gotta have that too.
So let's talk a little bit, changing gears a little bit about working with children with disabilities. That's certainly something that we don't hear a lot talked about in our community, and that was the other thing that drew me to connect with you.
Well, my son had some mental disabilities and psychological challenges, and he was on meds. And again, 2001, 2002, I didn't know anything about it. So I had to learn. Once I started learning the behavior and learning how to manage the behavior with the management and the therapy, things will get on track for a minute, but then it would jump off. They'd be on track, and then it would jump off. So I understood the difference between management of a child with a disability versus those that don't have medicine, because you don't have to medicate all children. And I'm not even for medication, but when I see the results of a Concerta or some Wellbutrin, oh my goodness, man, I'm like, I don't want to do this, but I don't have a choice. I need you to be able to study and focus in school.
Right.
I need you to be able to monitor your behavior. You know, it was, oh my goodness.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you to reiterate that, because that's also a point of contention with parents. They're like, I don't want to medicate my kid. I don't want to put my kid on drugs. But having an understanding of the possible outcomes of doing so, and not just that this is some snake oil salesman, you know, trying to dope your kid up.
To me, it's a hard choice between medicating and not medicating your child with a behavioral problem. You face suicide. You may face harm to yourself, you know, because if you're asleep and they're having a rant, you don't know what they're going to do. You have to be able to pay attention to these things. And then I was talking to a guy the other day, and we was talking about the incident that happened down in Florida with the guy that shot up the Madden tournament. What a lot of people didn't understand was that the day before he did that shooting, they saw him having mental health stressors. No one addressed it. No one stepped to him about it. Those lives could have been saved had someone had mental health first aid training or mental health first aid. They all said they saw him acting erratic and strange the day before. No one did anything. So it's the same thing with a child that's on medication. If you see them acting a little different, you have to address that. So with the counseling, management, you should be okay. But it's a hard choice for any parent to do that. It's really hard.
I understand that. Is it typically something that you go through with maybe one doctor or two doctors, or is it kind of that same best practice to make sure you get a second opinion?
Here's what I tell some of the family. The doctors ain't your friends. It's a business. Those medications make money. They're there to do their profession. So you have to take your child's care very seriously. If you don't feel comfortable with that doctor, what about the women that was assaulted by doctors they felt comfortable with and realized he wasn't doing what he should have been doing?
Right.
Same thing with the children. If you don't feel that you're getting the proper care from the doctor, physician, or whomever seeing your kid, you have all right to move that child to another. I was about to move mine, not naming situations, but I was about to move mine if the care didn't proceed in a proper way. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I can tell when something's not working.
Right.
But you're not going to convince me that it's working and it's not working. Something can't be working. You keep getting the same results.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And I think that's with any medication. They tell you, you know, not only these are the side effects,
and then
but
some of those medications are
outcome.
too strong. You know, like that Wellbutrin and a Concerta. That stuff is strong, and you really have to.
You mean the Wellbutrin and Concerta that you just recently gave praise to?
Well, I didn't say it didn't work, but it's strong, and you know, it has from my experience with dealing with it with my son, it helps while he's on it, but once he comes off of it or he no longer takes it, he's almost triple what he was behavior-wise prior to. Oh, they know this. They know this, but it's not shared. So, yeah, you got to manage that too.
Okay. I'm actually reminded when you said that of, again, the medication management.
Right.
From my history working in the juvenile probation centers, we had a lot of kids that were on medication. And I remember thinking at that time, and this is, you know, prior to my knowledge of the subject, you know, why are we doping up all these kids? But understanding the situations that led to them and also watching how the behavior changed. We also received training into watching to see whether or not these particular effects were actually taking place.
It makes a difference.
Yes.
It makes a huge difference.
And I'm certainly
I'm not
an
for
advocate.
the medication, but most times it worked. You know, I hate the fact that I had to do that. You know, but you got to do what you got to do. Period. I
mean, well, I liken it, and I am pro medication, mostly wine. But I think that it's important for us to recognize that there is a purpose for modern medicine in our society. But it's all about, as with any medication, one, why do you need it? Two, who diagnosed it. 3, what are the follow-up that you need to be watching for? Again, the expected outcomes.
I'm glad you said that too, because when I first got my son in 2002, one of the requests I made was how many doctors diagnosed him with his diagnosis. They were like, well, what do you mean? We had one doctor. Well, can we get another specialist to look at him?
Absolutely.
Well, Mr. Rory, we don't think that's necessary. I understand that, but can we do that? You know.
Yes. I'm all about the second opinions, because we have bad days. Doctors have bad days too. You know, maybe they're like, oh, I think it was just this and this. And that also plays a factor into...
They're not your friend.
Also plays into the parent, you know, making sure that you're being vocal and talking to the doctors and letting them know this is what you see. These are the behaviors that your child is exhibiting.
And be honest with them.
Absolutely.
Oh, some parents don't want to be honest with their kids' behavior.
Because they're embarrassed. Well, if I tell them this, they'll look at me differently.
Well, and they do.
Well, I do too.
So, you know, that.
But it's not about us. It's about what's going to work for your household and how is this going to get better? How is this going to impact your family in a positive way? So.
Works for me.
Okay. Awesome. So make sure you all take some of those nuggets that I said about the medication, because it also holds true for us, you know, as adults. When we take medication, you know, we shouldn't be going into it lightly as users ourselves. You know, why am I taking this medication? You know, was it only Dr. Jones that prescribed this medication, and what is this medication going to do for me? And or if after 3 to 6 months, you know, is it actually taking effect? Is it working? Do I need to change the dose? Do I need to change the medication?
Definitely let you know if the medication is working.
And or as a parent, like I said, the parent should also be watching for these signs.
Some parents aren't trained for that, and some parents don't know what the signs are.
Oh, by all means. But that's why we're talking about it, and the importance that you need to be mindful. Don't just give them the pills and let it go. Right. You know, you're both on this sequence. You know, you're both on this, the road to health.
That's shared. I even tell them sometimes, if you get a log, if you need to write it down, write down how they acted or behaved an hour after they take the medication. Write down how they act before they went to bed, their eating habits. You notice all this stuff. You notice it.
Or you should be. You should be noticing it. A concerned parent and an active parent should be noticing these things.
So you see how the mental health falls into the fathers and families, into the foster care support, into the advocating. It all falls under mental health.
It's under the same tree.
Yeah.
It's absolutely under the same tree. It's important to note that you mentioned earlier not only the drugs and your concern about the drugs and your concern for the dosage, but you also mentioned the importance of why are we doing this?
Yeah, you have to think about that. I mean, you don't want your children, and I don't like saying this, but you don't want your children looking like zombies. But you also don't want a stressful household in the same token. So you're stuck between making A and B choices. Where's the middle line? There isn't none. You have to be able to support them. So you have to, again, you pay attention to the medication, pay attention to their behavior, and do your best that you can. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Do you think stigmas help with that too? Do you think that the stigmas that are attached to it, that your child's on medications or you're not doing a good job as a parent because your child's on medication?
I don't think no parent in the world wants to fail. I don't think that exists. Well, hi, I want to be a parent, but I don't want to fail. I don't think that exists. So you have to want better for yourself as well as for your family and your life. So if you can get that taken care of, you're good. You know, I don't think that's just my opinion. I'm sure everybody agrees with that one at some point.
Okay, I like it. So tell us what else. What is the Lanier Foundation recently into? Some of the activities that your organization is involved in.
I think I've written some of them down. Well, we're going to be participating in the Mayor's Disability Expo, which is Tuesday, the 23rd from 10 to 3. I've been invited to come to the Health and Awareness Fair in Silver Spring. That's going to be on the 28th of October. And we have the Deeds of Kindness. Oh, those people are fantastic. Deeds of Kindness outreach on the 17th from 11 to 3.
And that's all this month in October?
Oh, these are the only ones I just brought for you. There's like 5 more. I just couldn't remember the dates.
Okay.
So, so this is skimming down. But those are the things that we're up to now with that. I'm also having a Keep Love Alive campaign to check on our seniors. My mom is in United Medical Center, and I went to visit her one day, and this elderly lady that was next to her got upset because I was leaving. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not even here to see you. I'm here to see my mother.
A visitor?
Yeah. Well, she wasn't a visitor. She was a patient.
Oh, a patient. Okay.
And she said no one comes to see her. And I felt so bad for her when I walked out that door. And I said, I asked the nurse, how often do someone come to see some of the patients up in the hospital? She said, well, there's a church that bring some of their members around to check on the seniors and check the bathroom and the cleanliness and everything. But there's no family to come and check on them. I'm like, oh my goodness. So when I left, I talked to two close friends of mine, and I said, what if I tried to get people to check on their seniors? I mean, just do a welfare check. Make a phone call, go visit them, talk to them for like 5 or 10 minutes, just check on them. A welfare check. Hey, if the welfare check was done well at a certain building that caught on a certain fire, maybe a certain person would have been there a certain longer week. So it's important. So that's my next pet peeve, but I'm still going to be on the fathers and family, getting fathers to be better dads. And I'm not a perfect dad either, but I do my best, and I try to help somebody else to do the same. And all the support I offer for the families is free. You know, we charge nothing to try to help and support families.
Awesome, awesome. Now, you brought to my attention, again, working with fathers. I believe there's another organization that you helped found that works with fathers.
Health Services for Children with Special Needs Male Caregivers Advocacy Support Group.
The Male Caregivers Advocacy
MAX,
Support Group.
MCAS Max, yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic
Tell
group
us
of
about
fathers.
that.
Well, they are a group of dads that have children with disabilities and special needs. They meet up every Wednesday at HSC and on the Martin Luther King location in the Southeast. And they go through workshops and training. They get counseling and support from Georgetown University as well as George Washington. Mm-hmm. They have professionals come in and counsel and support the dads and talk to them about some of their challenges. And what's unique about that particular group is that it's almost like a family, that the fathers aren't embarrassed to share what challenges they're having with their child or their significant other. And they all have one thing in common. Either the child is on medication or receiving services through health services or children's. Mm-hmm. So it's a very close group of men.
Okay, and how long has that been in existence, MCAS?
That's been in existence for, if I can remember correctly, about 22 years. Okay. We started out in a little room, weighs half the size of this one, with just two people, me and Freddie Jackson, I believe that's his name was. So, yeah, he was Jimmy Jackson. I said Freddie, Jimmy Jackson. So, yeah, it's been a while. It's been a long time.
Okay, and those are weekly meetups
Those
for
are
MCAS?
Weekly meetups for MCAS every Wednesday, 6 to 9 at HSCSN Outreach Center on MLK by the Big Chair. And they also had a connection with 100 black men, fathers and family out in California, the Fathers Network support up in New York. Mm-hmm. So that group there with dads and children who had disabilities, it's pretty networked out. When I was doing their outreach and representation, they had me going to New York, Florida, Georgia, Virginia, Alabama, Miami. I just wouldn't go too far over because men and airplanes don't get along. But
a lot of outreach on the East Coast.
There was a lot of outreach on the East Coast, a whole lot of outreach. And what I was surprised to hear, that it wasn't just African-American dads. Okay. Just all different races.
Okay, but there were a lot of African-American dads that got involved.
There was a lot of African-American dads that got involved, but they didn't meet up and they didn't have a central location. Mm-hmm. So what made MCAS unique is that there was one location. They met up every week, meals provided, child care is provided, transportation is provided. All the excuses you would have, well, I can't come to get the support because I don't have child care. Mm-hmm. Well, I can't come because I have to feed my kid at a certain time. Oh, don't worry about that. We take care of all that. You do? Yeah, we take care of all that. You should see the expressions on their face. I'm not there yet. I'll be there in another year. You know, get some meals for them.
Okay. I actually had someone that sent me an email this week about MCAS.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I didn't open it until the day before yesterday when I reached out to you to follow up.
Okay.
But for fathers that don't have, I guess, for their non-custodial dads, are they still welcome into this group as long as you're connected to the family, or do you have to, have your child residing with you, or?
It has been my understanding since the creation of the group that all dads are welcome.
Okay.
There has been some changes within the last 6 months, administrative changes there. I don't have all the ins and outs on how the operation is now going, but it's still my understanding that all dads are welcome. They still have their meetings regularly on Wednesdays, and they still provide the transportation and meal for the dad. They just ask them to call in or to notify them that they're coming and how many is coming.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I had a chat with someone about that not too long ago, because oftentimes when a child is born that has physical disabilities, the chances of a family breaking up go up.
Oh, yeah.
Go up.
Yeah.
And so as a result, we tend to see single women that are raising children with disabilities. And so it's important for us to, and I'm channeling my inner Alexis Dobbins, it's important for us to open a door, and open arms to invite the dads to come and be a part of that child's lives, to come and be a part of the systems of, whether or not the child is able to leave the house and go to day programs, whether or not they're being able to go to school, whether or not we're inviting dad to come over and sit and have a meal, with us.
It's important.
So I thought that it was very awesome when I first found out about MCAS. I'm like, oh, these are for the dads, that can come, because we know there's so many of them. It's difficult for them to stay.
But they also have a moms group there called PALS. So, but that's moms and dads. That's kind of mixed. But they have a bigger group called PALS, Parent Advocate Leader Support Group. That's where I got additional training from as well. So they meet, I think, once a month, the third Saturday of each month. And that's a very huge group, almost 60 to 70 parents,
wow.
Meet up to get resources and information to network to help their families. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we'll definitely be keeping track of the things that are going on with MCAS, all things that help us bring fathers back into the family and fathers back into the fold, because we do understand the importance of that. Are there any other projects that you're working on that are helping dads? We know the conference is coming up soon with our Fathers and Families Coalition.
Yeah, so that. No, that right now, those are the only two. The Fathers and Family here, the fair and the festival, and the Disabilities Expo talking about mental health. Those are just the ones for right now. I haven't even sent my information in for the Fathers and Families. What's that one in San Francisco? Oh, Lord, yeah. Me and airplanes don't get along again. See, I don't know why they won't do this here at the convention center.
You gotta have some drugs. We'll get some good drugs for you.
Oh, so you don't need more than that. Oh my goodness.
Okay, we're gonna get ready to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna have some couple questions for Mr. Oliver on our Ask a Grown Man segment, and we're also gonna bring up his website so that you all will know how to follow him and his organization.
Be careful what you ask me. I'm gonna tell you the truth.
We'll see you back shortly.
Don't ask if you don't want the truth. That's scary.
Okay, thank you for joining us. What we have on the screen, unfortunately, our Facebook folks can't see us, but we have on the screen the homepage from the Lanier Foundation website, because we certainly want to make sure that you all can keep in touch with Oliver Roy and his Community Connected Network. That website is www.thelanierfoundation, that's LINNER foundation.org. Yes. All right. And so coming back, we also know that you also do some marketing, so we want to make sure.
I wasn't prepared for that one.
Look, no. Like I said, we have them follow you. Okay. Can you tell our folks how to find you on Facebook?
You can find me on Facebook,
social media?
The Lanier Marketing Network on Facebook. The purpose of that, can I say what the purpose of that was? The purpose of that was I started that January of this year because I found that there was a lack of promotions for African American businesses or small businesses, period. So I developed a plan to promote anyone that had a viable or good business to promote on the site for free that is networked to well over 4 million Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn pages.
Awesome.
And it's promoted once each week to the 4 million Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn pages. So it's a good free marketing network. So those people that have businesses.
I'm sorry, you said it costs how much again?
FREE.
Okay.
It's scary, isn't
We
it?
can afford
You almost
that.
get chills in your back when you say free. Yeah, it's free. It's free marketing. I had to put a limit to the marketing because some people was, I don't want to say spamming the marketing, but they was doing too many posts. Let other people have an opportunity to make posts, you know, selling their hair, doing their hair products or skin products or radios or whatever they were selling. So it's the Lanier Marketing Network on Facebook. It's only one, so there's no way they cannot find it.
Okay.
But it's free, so sign up for it, and we'll run your promo.
Awesome. Okay, so before we wrap up, we're going to take these last 5 minutes to ask a grown man a couple questions. So first question, finances. Who is responsible for finances in a relationship, in your humble opinion?
In my humble opinion, the responsibility for the finances should be both parties.
Both parties.
I don't think there should be no leader in the financial, because what you do financially affects everything. So if it's going to affect everything, I need you to be a part of that.
Awesome. We like that. Okay. So in dating, do you look at a woman's finances when you're preparing to date?
I can't say that I have, because there are some deceiving numbers out there in sharing information. You can know mine, but I can't know yours. So until I can get that taken care of, I couldn't answer that one fairly.
Okay. Let's get a little bit more personal. Birth control, since we touched on Kavanaugh earlier.
I'm totally against it. I think birth control should only be for non-use.
No.
Ouch. I think my navel jumped when you said for men. No birth control for us.
I don't know why.
No,
a woman can have one baby a year, but a man can have 365 babies a year.
I love those numbers. Why would I want to change them?
Oh, Jesus.
Yes.
Okay.
He's a man, too. Amen.
Producer, write that down. We're going to have to bring him back for our birth control segment.
Ooh, be careful,
Okay.
Jack.
Stereotypes. Are black men aggressive, or is that just a stereotype?
Wow, that can go both ways. That can be a stereotype, and they can be, well, and in some sense, a black man got to be aggressive because the way they've been stereotyped. Self-explained. Oh, that kind of stopped you for a second, huh?
I mean, I started thinking to, community, policing, people getting shot at, because, I thought he was coming at me, even though he was going that way. And
that's going to happen. You in America, that's going to happen. You signed that contract when you gave a birth certificate. Yes, Lord.
Okay, let's go into another stereotype. Do all women want to get married?
I have no clue what all women want. They don't even know what they want. Why would I even try to answer that? You trying to set me up?
Look,
Mr. Roy is a veteran. You're not going to get me like that. I would never speak for a woman. No, any man should speak for a woman.
Okay. Parenting question. Spanking. To spank or not to spank?
In my younger days, I was a spanker. Well, that's not true. I was a beyond spanker. I tore it up. But now, with my 13-year-old, 14-year-old daughter, I don't want her thinking the only way to get her to be responsible or to know that she's doing something wrong is to spank her. And trust me, she's asking for it with honey barbecue sauce. But I am doing my best mentally and emotionally and psychologically to not go there, because I don't want that message to be, you can only listen to me after I beat you, or you did something wrong, I need to hit you. No, I don't think, and I think if I was taught earlier, I wouldn't have did spankings. I don't think spanking should not be, no, I'm not for it.
Okay. Okay, before we go into the last question, just a little caveat. If I babysit your kids, they're getting spanked. Okay, next question. Religion, is it important?
Oh, that's the question? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I can't speak on if religion is important in that, because who made up religion? What is religion? Who defines what a religion is? Let's have some ideology religion. How about that? Okay. So, religion, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. That's all I need.
Okay. Well, all right then. I think that we can end on a good note with that.
Amen.
So again, I want to thank you so much, Oliver, for coming out and spending this day with us on the show, giving us some good information, particularly a lot of the activities.
Hopefully I did.
You did with all the activities that you all have going on this month. Please make sure that you connect with him again at www.lanierfoundation.org. You can also find him on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
I'm all over.
Oliver Roy. Also, make sure that you take a look at the OBF website, because his information is also listed there, www.obf4u.org. So again, we want to say thank you so much for tuning in on this week's edition of Shaynel's 3 Cents. We hope you like everything that you heard here today.
Well, I hope you do too. It's the truth.
At least you heard it. So we'll see you back next week.
Truth is a scary thing.
Jump into my promo.